Hello, Romantics. I'm Sarah Gomez, author, romance lover, and host. You're listening to Romancing the Story, a podcast centered around writing, reading, and story structure, all with a twist of romance. We're at episode 31, and on today's episode, I speak with author Shannon Reber and narrator Lauren Rodriguez. We talk about the audiobook process for an indie author, how they approach the process from their end, and what influenced the creation of the book and audio version along the way. Author of about 70 books and counting, Shannon creates expansive worlds, interesting characters, and a fascinating escapism for readers. We discuss the Madison Meyer Mystery Series, which is an ongoing series of paranormal mysteries, where young adult and genius Madison Meyer, along with her team, investigate many different cases that will enthrall anyone who enjoys fantasy books. Shannon consolidated and released Book 1 through 3 for the Madison Meyer Mystery Series, available in one audiobook. Lauren, the narrator, has voiced all the books in the series so far. As you find out in the interview, the series is set in a sprawling world of magic and paranormal. And hopefully, there should be more audiobooks to come. Stick around till the end of the episode to hear a clip of Lauren's narration of the Madison Meyer series. Also, if you'd like to listen or see more detail into how the book was brought to audio life and Lauren's background in narration, be sure to check out Shannon's YouTube channel where she interviewed Lauren. Links for that video, as well as information for both guests, are in the show notes of the episode. With that said, let's jump right in. Welcome, author of Paranormal, Mystery, and Fantasy, Shannon Reber, and narrator Lauren Rodriguez.
Thank
Yay!
you.
So, Shannon, in case listeners don't know, can you tell everyone a little bit about your writing and yourself?
Okay, my writing. I've been doing it for a long time. I'm a extremely obsessive writer, so I have I think I'm not 100% positive because I've lost count, but I think I have 70 titles on Amazon.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I'm telling you, I'm obsessive. Um, I've got a bookshop in my town. We have local authors and used books, and I my life revolves around books, so that's me.
That's incredible that you not only do you write, like you've written so many titles, you also are like invested in your like local kind of area for like authors and readers and everything like that. That's awesome.
Yay! I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
Feel free to come and
And
visit anytime.
love it. Yes, I'll have to put it on my list. Definitely check it out. So what other genres do you write? I know I listed paranormal, mystery, and fantasy. Do you branch out into other genres as well?
Not really. I'm a fantasy fanatic. It
Ooh.
honestly is all I listen to, and yeah, I'm obsessed. So that's what I stick with. I
Ooh.
have one thing that I wrote earlier this year that was like a short story type thing, uh, which was nonfiction. But I mean, that was one thing, and
Oh,
it was
yeah.
dealing with my mom's death. So
Mm.
I just kind of needed to write it, so I decided to publish it.
And that's always super interesting to me, that you mentioned that because a lot of authors I've, recently interviewed have mentioned that they've used writing as kind of a catharsis
Yeah, exactly.
of some sort. Yeah, that they kind of just like whatever genre it is, however they choose to write about it, whether it be poetry, romance, fiction, or even non-creative nonfiction, they somehow use that as a form of therapy, which I love that writing can do that for people.
Well, my mom, she was always very supportive, but she never really read my stuff because
Mm.
fantasy wasn't her thing. But there were a few things that she did listen to. We would like read together, and she did like a couple of my things, but just it wasn't really her thing. So I like the fact that I have something that is about her and for her, and, it's still raw. I mean, it was
Mm.
April that she died, and, I'm still kinda getting used to it. It's weird, but, it's one of those things where, I'm happy that I have that because I have bad moms. I have, like, maybe 2 good moms in my, stories, but the rest is terrible moms, and I'm like, "I need something that's just for my mom who was not a terrible mom."
There you go. Yes, you have it out there that, yes, my mom was a good mom, guys, don't worry.
Yes, exactly.
So, you recently released the Madison Meyer Mystery Series, like volumes 1 through 3 on audiobook. Now,
Yes.
when you went about looking to bring the series to audio, how did you go about it?
I went through ACX,
Mhm.
and, it was r really, really easy. Lauren was one of my first, auditions, and she blew my mind, and, as soon as I heard her, I was like, "Nope, I'm done. That's all I need to hear. Let's just go with her," and, I decided to wait, and I got a few others that were really good, but Lauren's was it just hands down the best, so it was surprisingly easy to, get it started and all that jazz.
Lauren, and you just put in your audition, right? For
Yes.
the piece when you saw it? Okay.
Yeah.
So you have narrated a lot of books too. I was looking on Amazon the other day and I saw like, wow, she has so many titles to her name. Like, how long have you been narrating?
So I started in 2018 and I was still working full time at that moment. So I only released 2 books that first year.
Mm.
And that was, like just balancing everything. Like I didn't know where this was going in the beginning. I'm all like, I'm just gonna try this out. And it was just like, this is actually really fun. Like, I did theater in college, musical theater in high school, and it's just like I never knew who I wanted to be. It's just like, I wanna be like so many people, and in audiobooks, I could be so many people.
Right. That's kind of the fun thing about narration, I think, is that like you can be all these different people all within the comfort of your little booth. Right? So, do you stick to, because I know I've had this conversation with several other narrators. Do you stick to certain genres or you kind of just, I like any kind of genre that could use my voice?
I mostly stick to young adult because that's where my voice is comfortable.
Mm.
I have a very young sounding voice. I've heard many people tell me, even when I try to branch out, just like, well, actually, you need to sound a little bit older to be in this one. I'm like, okay, fine. Young adult, I love it. I am not mad at it. But as far as um, I do like I do like horror.
Ooh.
Um, I do like dark fantasy. So um, that's where I like to be. I like things to
Mm.
be a little scary.
I mean, well, we are right here near spooky season. So, like,
Mhm.
that's a perfect timing right now for the paranormal and mystery and all the horror type things. So, and I know every narrator's process is different. So, and sometimes even every book is different depending on
Mhm.
how you go about it. What did your process look like for the Madison Meyer Mystery Series?
So Shannon puts a lot of folklore and mythology in her book. So it's like what's the difference between a banshee and a fury? Like I
Hmm.
got to know like if it comes up and it's she usually does a great job of like putting those details in there because I have a feeling she knows the audience doesn't know, but if I want to go deeper into it, I look those things up. Also, with the mythology, sometimes there's like a different pronunciation depending on region and whatever. Like the difference between a Janus and a Janus, like
Yeah.
Mm.
Cerberus. Like it's picking one, and if I feel like Shannon has told me in the past, like, she trusts me with my pronunciations, but if I feel like I wanna test them with her, I will do that.
Yes,
And then
yes.
in addition to, it's just, like, making sure I stick with the right pronunciation that I've chosen in the beginning.
I love that you guys have that trust too, because I know some everyone has a different process, and I know some authors are very, they want certain pronunciations for certain things. I've seen some authors I've worked with make like basically a character list and say,
Yeah.
here's the pronunciations, here's who all the players are. And some narrators I know will read the book beforehand, and some just kind of cold read. That is a skill and a bravery I do not know. I will usually read beforehand because I'm just like, I know I'm gonna goof at some point, so
Yes.
So do you read it beforehand, or did you kind of cold read it and kind of feel it out as you went?
I don't trust myself to cold read it beforehand. So I do read the whole thing, in advance.
Nice. Well, and I love that you do that too, because especially for a mystery, because
Mhm.
sometimes there's like nuances and layers, and I know
Mhm.
Shannon really layered it. Shannon, I know you kind of built in a lot of like twists and turns in
Yeah,
there. So like, yeah, and there's just so much nuance and there's a lot going on with every character. So there's layered emotions
yeah,
also, right? From the straight
exactly.
on.
Well, the mystery part of it, I had a lot of different people helping me out with the first one was the first actual mystery that I'd written in a long time. So I had a lot of people helping me out, and then after I got comfortable with it again, I stopped asking for help because I didn't want somebody else's opinion to sway what I was writing too much, you know what I
Uh,
mean. Like,
yeah.
I take other people's advice, it's better to use my own voice, I guess. But, with, I've only had, like, I think 1 person tell me that, they hated my mystery, and, they had it figured out in chapter 2, and it was just a waste of their time, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to waste your time." Gosh, I feel terrible now.
Well, and maybe, maybe that was part of the plan. Who knows? Maybe you
Gosh,
figured it
you
out. Maybe
think?
you should be a
Huh.
detective. Do you actually plot out before? I've talked to a couple of mystery writers, and some of them say like there are clues, right? Like Chekhov's gun,
Right.
the whole Chekhov's gun theory. We leave a gun out in chapter 2 and then we pick it up again, like chapter 27. Woo, long
Mhm.
time away. But
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
ever plot them out?
Only sort of. See,
Ah,
I start out with a basic idea. I know the beginning and the end, but I never know what's gonna happen in the middle. So, generally, what I do is I have, uh I usually go back and add clues later,
mm,
once the story has told itself to me. So, I
oh.
mean, I'm not a plotter, but I do have basic ideas that sometimes work and sometimes don't.
Well, I love that at least you have the ending already in mind.
Yeah.
So you kind of know the who done it, or at least the ending of what's going to happen so we can get there and
Well,
then you kind of fill
I knew
in.
who the killer was in book 1 in the start of book 1, but I didn't realize there was going to be a secondary person until I started writing the book.
Oh.
So, I didn't know that until they told me it was gonna happen. They took over. The characters took over, and I had almost nothing to do with it. I was just I was telling my friend about this. She's like, "You're just writing an incident report." I was like, "Yes, yes, exactly. That's what
Ooh,
I'm
I
doing."
love that take.
I love that
I love
too.
that.
That's such a great way of looking at it too, because then you get all the critical information you need, and then you can like just the bones of your story, right? And then you can
Yeah,
build off of that.
exactly.
Ah, love that. And that's something I've talked to several other mystery writers about this as well, because and from the sound of it, you might be in the same camp. They say they never read other mysteries while they're writing a mystery.
I read everything. So
Okay.
I don't stop reading a certain thing just because I'm writing a certain thing. I actually read more.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
see, I do the same thing, like, if I'm writing in a certain genre or
Yeah.
even just outside of that genre, I will still read, and in fact, I might read more if I'm in the right mood.
Yeah.
That's something I've heard some mystery writers of mine actually said they didn't, only because they were afraid that mystery might influence their own.
Oh, see, I like when other books influence your work. I
Mm.
love that because no story is ever truly original. There's always little bits and pieces that you get from everywhere. So I like taking that and weaving those different things through the story. The myth of the woman in white.
Mhm.
I didn't go full bore on everything that the mythology states with the woman in white. I did my own thing with it, but I still read through all of the different takes on that myth. And I live in just south of Buffalo, New York, and there are two different woman in white legends from my area, one from Pittsburgh and one from Rochester, New York. Rochester is like 2 hours away, but Pittsburgh is 2.5 hours away. So it was really fun to take that and weave it through weave it through my mystery
Mm.
while still having, oh, I have a
Oh,
visitor.
kitty tail.
Can we say we love that we're all on theme too because it's a black cat? So we're
We
staying within
are.
the theme here.
Good job, little one.
I love that you mentioned that because there's a lot of different takes on different
Yeah,
myths or different supernatural stories. Like they're all ghost stories, I think, all
yeah,
have like they have an origin point, but then there's so many varieties of different types of those stories, like depending on
exactly.
who's telling it. So
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
that's a great way of looking at it to me because that means that you can just be influenced by anything, right?
Right.
And then create your
Exactly.
own story from there.
Exactly.
So, Lauren, do you actually do you listen to audiobooks while you're actually
I
narrating?
do. I guess one of the favorite conversations going back to like what I use as influence is I remember a friend telling me how he loved Michael C. Hall's version of Pet Cemetery because of the intensity in his voice whenever he gets excited or when he's doing like a really intense moment.
Mhm.
And so I took that because I love him in Dexter, and he does have that intensity when he's chopping someone up. um so I listened to it. It's just like, oh, that's really cool. But I love that one as far as like a young adult version of that. I mentioned this to Shannon on her podcast, which was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder.
Mhm.
Bailey Carr, excellent at those intense moments. And I also love TV shows. So another good influence was Netflix's Hill House.
Mm.
Nell
I love
Gwynn
that.
that neck lady, like anytime she talks about her, she's just really intense, really breathy, and like you can just hear it in her voice, like on the voicemails that she leaves. It's just like everything's so confusing. Ugh, I
Oh,
love that intensity.
yeah, and you did a great job
I
building a
agree.
lot of the tension. Yeah, building the
Yeah.
tension throughout, and I felt like that's such a key part, especially if you're narrating a mystery.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, building that tension throughout the audiobook. You did an excellent job. And and I'm glad to hear that too, that you listen to other people too, because that's how I like to think of it is like we can kind of learn, right? Or just kind of take
Hmm.
pieces from other people and say, like, they did that really well. I'm gonna try to do that.
Yes.
And I know several authors I've worked with, being like an audiobook producer, I've have had special requests when working on a book. Is there any interesting tidbits like Shannon you added or really wanted to hone into the audiobook? Lauren, maybe you can chime in here too if you had like specific, if you went into the book thinking, I'd like to really do this.
Honestly, the only thing I remember specifically asking is don't overdo the accent. Pittsburgh has a
Ah.
funky accent, and I'm not a huge fan of it. So I remember I think I did, didn't I?
If you did, it might have been in the audition notes to where it's just like, okay,
Okay.
just general American accent.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the hope because the Pittsburgh accent, I'm not into it that much. So sorry, Pittsburghers, please forgive me.
No, and that's that's totally fair. It happens, sometimes those accents don't really translate like
Yeah.
to audiobook. So, but Lauren, I know you did different voices too for the different narrations, or for the different characters in the
Right.
audiobook. So you did a fantastic job with that. Was there anything
Heck yeah.
specifically you went into thinking like, okay, I want to do like these types of voices, or just does it come to you whenever you're in the audio booth?
As far as something specific, I know when I did book 1, she did prep me on book 2 about a Czech accent coming in.
Yeah.
So I do remember that
Ah,
specifically. She's all like, "Okay, just so you know, when we go to book 2, this is coming up, like, get prepared for that." Um, as far as just going through the characters, I think I tried to make them organic, but at the same time, like, a little bit there's a fine line between organic and a little bit planned because you don't want it
mm,
to sound like anybody else, or at least I try not to make them sound like anybody else.
ah, yeah.
Yeah, there's just like a middle line I'm walking as I'm like figuring it out.
Yeah.
No, that's a great method. And like I said, every narrator has their own method and how they approach it. And sometimes I know some narrators were like, well, I'm trying to go specifically for this one science teacher I heard back in like seventh grade.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that
Sometimes
is
I'll
super
go
specific.
through TV shows and like try to cast them. Sometimes like people in real life. I know me and Shannon have talked about our favorite character right now is Imogen. It's just like, yeah, that was somebody very specific in my life. And it's just like just a little bit when you first meet them an overwhelming personality, but then as you get to know them, it's just like, oh my gosh, you're just really cool.
I love that you call out the character Imogen because she was actually the one like that I kind of connected with. Like really, really like one of the side
Yay.
character that I'm really like you said, somebody like this. Like I
Yeah.
had a girlfriend like this in college.
Yeah.
I still have one. So like I love that Shannon, you did such a great job of creating real characters and like they're going
Yeah.
through real struggles, like even in the midst of all this like mystery, paranormal stuff going on, there's still, like I said, just a lot of layers of them still dealing with
Yeah.
like early young adult issues, and kind of figuring themselves out, which like paranormal can almost be a metaphor for that in and of itself. But you have that
Very
on top
true.
of it. Like, how long did the process take for like the audiobook, for like an audiobook from, because I know for different people it takes a little bit of time. So I'm just curious how long it took you ladies from like for book one, maybe.
Book 1, I do ask, especially like it was last year. I think COVID was at the process of almost ending, but not quite. Like as far as
Hmm.
like the lockdowns and whether people were getting sick and hospitalized if they were. Um, and I still work a cafe job. And because we were dealing with staffing shortages at the time, I think I requested like a little bit of a longer deadline. I'm all like, okay, in case I get sick, I want a I want some time to deal with that.
I'm
In
thinking it
case
was
like
2
for
months,
some
wasn't it?
reason
Yeah.
work needs me more because people are sick, like I need time to deal with that as well.
Yeah.
So I think I requested 3 months.
Oh, was it
Because
3?
also in case my
Oh.
editor gets sick, I want her to feel comfortable with the deadline as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys built that buffer in there of just in case.
See,
Cause yeah.
I was thinking it was 2 months, but I think you might be
Maybe it
right.
was 2 months.
But I remember as soon as I, got the book, I started playing it for my friend who doesn't actually listen to audiobooks. He was like, "That's a really good voice. That's perfect." I was like, "I know, right? That's great." So, yeah, I was that squeaky when I said it too. Um,
I
but, we were, talking about how, audiobooks during COVID were gonna be perfect because, even when you're sick, you can still listen to an audiobook.
Mhm.
Well, and I know audio right now is very hot, like, just like the audiobook market in general is like a lot of, people are either coming into the market or there's a lot of books being, optioned for the audio piece. Shannon, did you decide immediately once you published the book, I mean, you published so many. Did you immediately know that, okay, I really want to put this in audio? And did you go about putting it in audio pretty close after you released it, or did you wait?
I waited.
Oh,
See, I was under the impression that I wouldn't be able to afford it. And when I found out that I could afford it, it was like a bucket list thing for me. I'm legally blind, so for me, audiobooks are my world. Well, it's how I read books. So it was very important to me to be able to do it because that's how I've gotten through every book that I've ever ever gotten through, and I was excited to be able to do it, and I'm thinking it was like 3 or 4 years between when I published and when I got the audiobook started. It was 2016, and I think we did it in 2021, so 5 years.
Yeah.
and I see like a lot of indie authors I know say that that's on their bucket list too.
Yeah.
So they said a lot of them will tell me that I've talked to will say, I just wanted to do it for me. I just wanted to hear my characters come to life and like,
Yes,
and like someone like Lauren can help narrate it to bring them to life so that people can
exactly.
hear them. So, and I I love that you went about doing that. And what a, I think you picked a really actually pretty good time because right now, like I said, the audio market is kind of really expanding and changing and it is so accessible to so many people right
Mhm.
now
Exactly.
currently.
Yep.
I was so interested in what you were saying, Shannon, about legally blind just because my friend's legally blind. So that's how he
Oh, hey,
actually
congratulations. We're so cool, aren't we?
Oh, he's awesome. He's such a hoot. But yeah, he was my roommate in college, but that's how he
Oh,
listened to books too. So that's
oh,
actually he was the one who encouraged me to get into narration because he was like, "You have an easy voice to listen to. In fact, you kind of sound like an anime character." So
Oh,
I've
that.
done some yeah, I've auditioned for some anime stuff too thanks to him. So I just thought that
that's
was
awesome.
funny. I was just like, how, you listen, you found Lauren was the perfect narrator and he told me to get into narration. You guys know your stuff. So Shannon, I know you right now, the bundle is book one through
Oh,
three through the
yeah,
series,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
And there's three short stories, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Included in there. Um,
Mhm.
and are there more in the series?
Oh, heck yeah. There
Okay.
right now, there's 9 books in the series,
Okay.
and I don't remember how many short stories. I think there's
I know of 8.
I'll take
Ooh.
your word for that, Lauren.
I'm only aware of 8. There could be
Okay.
more in there.
Yeah, there could be, and there probably will be. I know there will be. But, there's 9 books right now, but, I'm writing book 10. This series will not end.
Mm.
If people will keep, buying it and, Lauren will keep narrating, I want to keep it going forever. I want it to turn into, cozy paranormal mysteries with Maddie in the nursing home, solving the, ghosty issues that's going on, you know?
I love that. I love that yeah, she'll be doing, like, different throughout the phases of the
Yes,
books, different one.
exactly, exactly.
It's available in the book format to you said number 9? Number
Yes,
9 in the series?
yes.
And on audiobook, where are you
I
ladies sitting? Yes.
I am working on 6 right now, so
Okay.
5 are out.
Okay, so 5 are
Ah,
currently available for everyone to binge, and if you wanna
exactly.
go, read them, they're up to
Mhm.
9. Mhm. Nice. And they do sound like I actually listened to the first book and Lauren, phenomenal narration, by the way. Uh, but they were kind of longer books. I really enjoyed it because I was just like, man, I could really sink my teeth into them. Are all the books kind of like in that longer format?
No, I think 4 hours? Aren't they 4 hours, Lauren?
There is a range. I think was there one that was 8?
I think book 1 was 8, and then
Oh, okay.
I book 2 was shorter, and it wasn't intentional, it was just that was where the story ended.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, I just
I believe 5 was a little short or 2.
okay,
But I
okay.
feel like 3 might have been around that 6, 7 range.
Okay. I
Mm.
think you're right. Yeah.
Well, and I like, Shannon, that you actually allow the story to kind of just tell itself. Like you don't feel the need to kind of pad it out, because sometimes you read those mysteries and you could tell.
I know. That drives me crazy. So I do. As soon as I feel it's done, I don't string it out because that bugs me so much. Like, just stop it. Come on. You don't need to do this. You can cut that out. No, thank
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. I feel the same. Yeah. I feel the exact same when I'm reading certain, like anything like whodunit mysteries. And then I'm like, you could have gotten rid of this entire chapter. Like, like I appreciate you have it in there, but like really though. So Lauren, you said you read the book beforehand.
Correct.
Typically, you usually read the book beforehand. Um, do you ever listen back to your stuff? Like, let me put it this way, because as a narrator myself, I sometimes am a little bit of a perfectionist. Or
Mm.
is that something you've learned to kind of trust yourself with? Like, okay, I know these characters. I know Shannon, how she writes. I mean, I know I got this. Like,
Um,
now that you're
a
on book
little
5
bit
or
of
6.
both. I'll do like a pre-edit before going to
Mhm.
the editor. Like I do a little bit of micromanaging for myself.
Mhm.
And once everything's done, like I can't say I have the attention span to listen to a book I've already enveloped myself in so many times to like say I listened to my whole book over again, but it's nice to look back and be like, I did that. That was me.
That was
Yeah.
you. Congratulations. You did it well, too.
Mhm.
I do come from a little bit of an editing background. I did assistant editing and reality TV for a couple years. And so like I'm not saying that it's easy to separate myself from my work when I do my pre-edit, but it's something I do.
No, and that's a great background to have, because then sometimes you kind of know what helps you as far as stopping, starting, or anything
Yeah.
like that with or like that didn't sound, I could tell that doesn't that probably take won't work.
Yeah.
So like that's really cool, because a lot of times I've done some editing work too, and work with on short films, and a lot of times like as an editor I know I'm looking at it through a certain lens, and
Mhm.
I can know immediately when something may or may not work. So for the most part, not every time, but like for the most part, I can kind of see that. And a lot of some of the narrators I work with, that's something they've had to learn as they go,
Mhm.
is
Oh,
that
I
whole
see.
process. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting too. Um, I know you said you don't really listen yourself back, but I know since you've been gotten to like what, book 4, 5, 6, you said
Mhm.
now with Shannon. I know a lot of the narrators I work with say like, I know these characters now. I'm familiar with them. I'm cozy with them. I hang out with them in my head. So like it's great that you kind of have that, you and Shannon have that trust now, and that you can kind of just go about it easily narration wise,
Mhm.
at least easier than, like someone starting from a new author too, because sometimes you just never know how that dynamic works. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Ladies, where can listeners find these amazing audiobooks that we've been talking about?
Amazon, Audible, iTunes. Those 3.
Awesome. And how can they connect with each of you, Shannon and then Lauren?
I'm on pretty much every social media platform there is. It's usually author Shannon Reber, but Twitter I'm Shannon Art Right. And yeah, I'm if you just look up author Shannon Reber, you'll find me. And if you spell Reber correctly, you don't you can spell it backwards and forwards the same way. So bear that in mind. You will be able to figure it out.
I like that.
And for
Lauren?
me, I am most active on Instagram, Lauren SUZ, and TikTok, Lauren Rodriguez VO, and somewhat active on Twitter, which is Lauren SUZROD. I couldn't. I think my name's just common enough. I couldn't get them similar across all platforms.
Mm, and they can find you on ACX, right?
They can.
Aha. Thanks so much to Shannon and Lauren for joining the show. Be sure to follow me on social media at Romance the Story. That way you can keep up with new and prior guests, as well as episodes to come. Audiobook recommendations for this episode: the Madison Meyer Series, Book 1 through 3, and 3 short stories by Shannon Reber and narrated by Lauren Rodriguez. And now, an excerpt of Lauren's fabulous narration from the book.
"Happy birthday, Madison," he said, his lips still on my cheek. I wrapped my arms around his neck and burrowed in. It was the nicest thing anyone had ever done for me all my life. He and I had such an odd pseudo-friendship thing going on. Right then, there was nothing pseudo about it. He wrapped his arms around my waist and let out a sigh. "I'm really glad you moved back here," he said in the kind of voice that made a shiver pass up my spine. "Why?" I whispered, still clinging to his neck. A slight chuckle rumbled through his chest. "I miss your freckles," he said and pulled me around. He slid his hand down my arm and entwined his fingers with mine as he pulled me deeper into the woods. I was dazed. It was such a nice feeling to be there with someone I knew so well. Or, I thought I knew him anyway. I was no longer sure. He was so different from the scornful guy who had teased me every day of my life. The grown-up version of him was far nicer and seemed to see me as a grown-up as well. That was gratifying. His fingers were warm and strong around mine. Ian Gregory held my hand. That was crazy. And at that moment, our worlds turned into a nightmare. We rounded a corner on the path and we stumbled at the same time. Something was there. A girl in a white dress. Emma. The rage on her face was the most horrifying thing I had ever seen. She looked like a monster, her face purple, her neck bruised, her nails broken. My hand clenched around Ian's because Emma was not the only horror on that path. A kid, a year or two older than me, hung from a tree, his body dangling over the path. He looked like Emma had. Everything about their position was identical. I stared from the ghost of my best friend to the guy who hung from the tree, a wail escaping my lungs. It wasn't suicide. There was no doubt. Everyone would see that now. Emma had been murdered exactly like that kid.
As always, stay safe, be well, and keep writing.